The red dust of Korath Prime swirled around Dr. Hana Kim's boots as she walked across the dead battlefield. Her scanner beeped softly in her hand, recording the chemical damage left behind by alien weapons. The air still smelled of burned metal, and something sweet that made her stomach turn. 3 weeks had passed since the last battle ended. The Talon Empire had fought hard to keep this mining world, but the human forces had pushed them back. Now Hana had the ugly job of seeing what the war had done to the planet. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. Her job was to check if the land could still grow food, or if the alien weapons had poisoned everything. It was not exciting work, but someone had to do it. The battlefield stretched out like a graveyard of metal. Broken ships lay scattered across the rocky ground. Some were human vessels, their white hulls cracked open like eggs. Others belonged to the Talon forces, their purple metal twisted into strange shapes by the heat of battle. Hana stepped carefully, around a crater that was still warm. Her scanner clicked faster as she moved closer to what had been the center of the fighting. The readings showed high levels of toxic chemicals in the soil. Nothing would grow here for years. She was about to turn back when she heard it, a sound so low and deep that she felt it in her chest more than heard it with her ears. It came again, like a giant animal breathing in pain. Hana stopped walking. Her training told her to call for backup before investigating strange sounds on alien battlefields. But her curiosity was stronger than her fear. She followed the sound toward a pile of rubble that had once been a Talon command bunker. The breathing sound grew louder as she got closer. She climbed over chunks of purple metal and broken stone, her scanner going crazy with readings she had never seen before. Something big was buried under all this debris. At first, she thought it was just another piece of wreckage. But then she saw it move. A section of what she had taken for dark metal lifted slightly, then fell back down. It was breathing. Hana forgot about safety protocols. She dropped her scanner and started pulling away pieces of rubble with her bare hands. The chunks were heavy, and soon her palms were bleeding from the sharp edges. But she kept digging. After 20 minutes of hard work, she had cleared enough space to see what lay beneath. Her breath caught in her throat. It was a creature unlike anything in her xenobiology textbooks. The beast was enormous, easily 3 times the size of an elephant. Its hide was thick and dark, covered in natural armor that looked like black stone. Massive claws extended from its 4 legs, each one longer than her arm. But what made her heart race were the metal ports embedded along its skull. Cables and wires hung from these ports like dead snakes. This was not a natural creature. Someone had made it for war. The beast's eyes opened as she stared down at it. They were golden yellow like twin suns, and filled with intelligence and pain. It tried to lift its head but was too weak. One of its back legs was twisted at a wrong angle. Clearly broken, Hana could see that the creature was dying. Its breathing was shallow and quick. Dark blood seeped from wounds along its side where metal fragments had pierced its armor-like skin. But worse than the injuries was the dehydration. Its mouth hung open, and its tongue was dry and cracked. Every bit of her training screamed at her to back away and call the military. This was clearly Talon biotechnology, probably a weapon designed to kill humans like her. The smart thing would be to let it die and report the location to her supervisors. But as she looked into those golden eyes, she saw something that stopped her cold. The creature was not looking at her with hatred or hunger. It was looking at her with hope. Hana made a choice that would change everything. She climbed down into the rubble pile and approached the beast slowly. It watched her every move, but did not try to attack. When she was close enough to touch it, she spoke in a soft voice. "Easy there, big guy. I am not going to hurt you." The creature's ears, hidden beneath its armored head, twitched at the sound of her voice. She reached into her backpack and pulled out her water bottle. It was nearly full, enough to last her the rest of the day. Without thinking about what she was doing, Hana poured the water into her cupped hand and held it near the beast's mouth. The creature looked at her for a long moment, as if it could not believe what was happening. Then its dry tongue carefully lapped up the water. She gave it more, pouring small amounts into her palm until the bottle was empty. The beast drank every drop, its golden eyes never leaving her face. When the water was gone, it made a sound deep in its throat that almost seemed like gratitude. Hana sat back on her heels and really looked at the creature for the first time. Despite its fearsome appearance, she could see that it had been abandoned. Here, the cables hanging from its head ports were roughly cut, as if someone had disconnected them in a hurry. Old scars covered its hide, showing that it had been in many battles. This was a war beast, she realized. The Talon Empire was known for creating living weapons to fight their battles. But when the battle was lost, they had left this one behind, to die alone in the rubble. The thought made her angry. Whatever this creature had done in the war, it did not deserve to die of thirst and neglect. Hana pulled out her communication device, then stopped. If she called for help, the military would take the creature away. They would study it, try to learn its secrets, maybe even use it as a weapon themselves. The beast would never know kindness again. She looked down at the creature, which was still, watching her with those intelligent golden eyes. In that moment, she made a decision that went against every rule she had been taught. She was going to save it. The creature made that deep rumbling sound again, and somehow Hana knew it understood. She had shown it the first kindness it had ever known, and something had changed between them. She did not know it yet, but this moment of compassion would reshape the galaxy. The red sun of Korath Prime was setting, painting the battlefield in shades of blood and gold. And in a pile of rubble that had once been a fortress, a human woman sat beside an alien war beast and wondered what she had gotten herself into. 2 days had passed since Hana found the war beast in the rubble. She had not reported her discovery to anyone. Instead, she had spent those days bringing water and medical supplies to the creature, watching it slowly grow stronger. The beast no longer lay flat against the ground. It could lift its massive head and even move its front legs a little. The broken back leg was healing, though it would take time. Most importantly, the intelligence in those golden eyes seemed brighter each day. Hana had started calling the creature Doll, after the Korean word for stone. Its armor-like hide reminded her of the Rocky Mountains back on Earth. The name seemed to fit, and somehow she thought the beast liked it. She sat cross-legged next to Doll's head, sharing her lunch. The creature could not eat human food, but it seemed to enjoy her company. Its breathing had become steady and deep, no longer the painful gasps she had first heard. "You know, Doll," she said, breaking off a piece of her sandwich, "I should probably tell someone about you, but I have a feeling they would not understand." Doll's ears twitched at the sound of her voice. Over the past 2 days, Hana had noticed that the creature responded to her words, not just to the sound, but to the meaning behind them. When she spoke softly, Doll relaxed. When she sounded worried, those golden eyes would focus on her with what looked like concern. That was not normal for a simple war beast. Even the smartest earth animals could not understand human emotions so clearly. Doll was something more. Hana pulled out her scanner and ran it over the metal ports in Doll's skull. The readings were incredible. The ports were not just crude control devices. They were sophisticated neural interfaces, capable of transmitting and receiving complex data patterns. "These are not just for controlling you, are they?" she asked, touching one of the ports gently. "These are for communication." Doll made a low, rumbling sound that she had learned meant agreement. The creature's eyes followed her hands as she examined the damaged cables. Someone had cut these connections roughly, probably in a hurry to abandon the battlefield. Hana made a decision. She pulled a small data pad from her backpack and looked at the connector ports. If she was careful, she might be able to establish a basic connection. It was risky. She had no idea what kind of information was stored in Doll's neural system, but her curiosity won over her caution. She found a compatible cable in her equipment kit and carefully plugged one end into her data pad. The other end she connected to the least damaged port on Doll's head. The creature watched her work but did not resist. When the connection was complete, her data pad screen filled with symbols she had never seen before. They were not random patterns. They had structure, meaning. It was a language. You can communicate, she whispered in amazement. The symbols on her screen changed, forming new patterns. Slowly, very slowly, Hana began to understand. Doll was trying to tell her something. It took hours of patient work, but eventually they managed basic communication. Doll would think of concepts, and the neural interface would translate them into symbols on her screen. Hana would type responses, and somehow Doll could understand her words through the connection. The first thing Doll told her broke her heart. Pain. Alone. Abandoned. Why help me? Hana typed her response carefully. Because you needed help. Because it was right. The screen was quiet for a long time. Then new symbols appeared. Right. What is right? That question told Hana everything she needed to know about Doll's life. The creature had never experienced kindness or choice. It had been created for war, programmed to follow orders, used as a weapon. No one had ever taught it about compassion or morality. Over the next several hours, Doll shared his story through the neural link. He had been grown in biolaboratories on the Talon homeworld. His genetic code was a mixture of different alien species, designed to create the perfect living weapon. He was strong, fast, intelligent, and completely obedient to his handlers, but Doll had not been created alone. He was one of 12 war beasts made for a special purpose. They were given to Prince Kyung of Talon as his personal guard and companions. Unlike other Talon nobles, Prince Kyung had treated his war beasts with respect, almost like friends. Prince good, Doll communicated. Prince different, Prince said war wrong. Hana felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard rumors about internal conflicts in the Talon Empire, but this was the first real evidence she had encountered. Through Doll's memories, she learned that Prince Kyung had opposed the war against humanity. He believed the Empire was making a terrible mistake by trying to conquer other worlds. The prince had even tried to negotiate peace with human leaders. But the other Talon nobles saw this as weakness. They had arranged for Prince Kyung to have an accident during a battle inspection. The prince died, and his war beasts were scattered among different commanders, who saw them only as weapons. Handlers no understand, Doll explained. Use pain to control. No food if disobey. They fear me, so they hurt me. Hana's anger grew as she learned more about how Doll had been treated. The creature had memories of battles across a dozen worlds, always fighting other people's wars, never having a choice. When the battle for Korath Prime went badly, his handlers had simply disconnected his neural cables and left him to die. They had not even bothered to put him out of his misery. They had just walked away. That is not right, Hana typed. You deserved better. What is better? Came Doll's response. That simple question made Hana realize how much work lay ahead of them. Doll had spent his entire life being used by others. He had never learned about freedom, friendship, or the right to make his own choices. Better is having someone care about you, she explained. Better is being able to choose what you want to do. Better is not being alone. The screen was quiet for several minutes, then, You care about me? Yes, Doll. I care about you. Another long pause. I do not understand why. Hana smiled sadly. Because you are more than what they made you to be. You are intelligent and gentle. You deserve to be happy. Happiness appeared on the screen. Show me happy. For the rest of the day, Hana tried to explain concepts that most beings took for granted. She told Doll about friendship, about choosing your own path in life, about the beauty of sunsets and the sound of rain. She shared stories about her childhood on Earth, about her family, about the reasons she had become a scientist. Doll absorbed every word, asking questions that showed how hungry he was to understand the world beyond war and pain. As the sun set, over Korath Prime, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, Doll communicated something that surprised her. I want to protect you, not because programmed, because choose to. Hana felt tears in her eyes. In just 2 days, this creature had learned the difference between forced obedience and chosen loyalty. That gave her hope for what they might accomplish together. But their quiet moment was interrupted by the sound of footsteps on rubble. Someone was climbing toward their hiding place. Dr. Minho Park, her research partner, appeared at the edge of their shelter. His face was a mixture of shock and anger as he saw Hana sitting next to the massive alien creature. "Hana, what have you done?" he demanded. Dr. Minho Park stood at the edge of the rubble pile, staring down at Hana and the massive war beast. His face was pale with shock and anger. He held his communication device in his shaking hand. "Hana, step away from that thing right now," Minho said, his voice tight with fear. "Do you have any idea what you are doing?" Hana stood up slowly, placing herself between Minho and Doll. The war beast had gone very still, its golden eyes watching the newcomer carefully. She could feel the tension in the air like electricity before a storm. "Minho, please listen to me," she said, holding up her hands. "This is not what you think." "Not what I think?" Minho's voice rose. "You are hiding an alien war weapon. You should have reported this 3 days ago. The military has been looking for Talon biotech all over this planet." Doll made a low rumbling sound. Through their neural connection, Hana could sense his confusion and growing fear. He had learned to trust her, but this new human felt dangerous. "His name is Doll," Hana said firmly. "And he is not a weapon anymore. He was abandoned here to die. I saved his life." Minho shook his head. "You saved a killing machine, Hana. These things were designed to destroy human settlements. How many of our people do you think this creature has killed?" The question hit Hana like a physical blow. She had not thought about Doll's past actions in the war. Through their connection, she could feel the war beast's emotions. There was shame there and guilt and something that felt like grief. "That was not his choice," she said quietly. "They controlled him. They forced him to fight. Forced or not, he is still dangerous," Minho replied. He raised his communication device. "I am calling this in." "Wait," Hana said urgently. "Let me show you something first. Give me 5 minutes." Minho hesitated. He had known Hana for 2 years. She was one of the smartest people he had ever met, and she was not reckless. But this was beyond anything he could understand. 5 minutes, he agreed reluctantly. "But if that thing makes one wrong move, I am calling for backup." Hana nodded and sat back down next to Doll. She reconnected her datapad to his neural port. The screen filled with symbols as Doll communicated his worry. "New human dangerous?" appeared on the screen. "No, Doll. He is just scared. Can you show him what you showed me? About Prince Kyung and the war?" "We'll try," came the response. Hana turned to Minho. "He can share his memories through this neural interface. You need to see what really happened in this war." She gestured for Minho to come closer. He approached carefully, staying ready to run if needed. When he saw the symbols on her datapad screen, his eyes widened. "It can write?" "He can do much more than that," Hana said. "Doll, can you show us the memory about Prince Kyung's death?" The screen flickered and then filled with new symbols. But these were different. They moved and changed, creating patterns that somehow formed images in their minds. Minho gasped as the memory began to play out. They saw through Doll's eyes as he stood in a Talon command center. Prince Kyung was there, a tall alien with silver skin and kind eyes. The prince was arguing with other Talon nobles, his voice angry and frustrated. "This war will destroy both our peoples," Prince Kyung said in the memory. "The humans are not our enemies. They are trying to protect their worlds, just as we would protect ours." "You are weak, Prince," replied another Talon, this one with darker skin and cold eyes. "The Empire needs strong leaders, not dreamers who make friends with our enemies." The memory jumped forward. Now they were on a battlefield inspection. Prince Kyung was walking among wounded soldiers, both Talon and human prisoners. He was ordering his medics to treat everyone equally. "All life has value," he told Doll. "Never forget that, my friend." Then came the explosion. A human artillery shell landed directly where Prince Kyung was standing. But through Doll's enhanced senses, they could see the truth. The shell had come from behind them, from the Talon lines. Prince Kyung had been murdered by his own people. The memory ended, and both humans sat in stunned silence. Minho's face was white with shock. "They killed their own prince," he whispered. "Show him more," Hana said to Dahl. "Show him what they did after." More memories flowed through the neural link. They saw Dahl and the other war beasts being separated and given to different commanders. They saw the cruelty and neglect that followed. The creatures who had once been treated with respect were now seen as nothing more than tools. They saw the final battle for Korath Prime through Dahl's eyes. His new handlers were losing, and they were angry. When the retreat order came, they had simply disconnected Dahl's neural cables and left him behind. "Better to let the humans find a dead war beast than a living one," one of them had said. When the memories ended, Minho was shaking. He looked at Dahl with new eyes, seeing not a monster but a victim. "I had no idea," he said softly. "There is more," Hana said. She typed a question into her datapad. "Dahl, can you tell us about the data you carry? The information Prince Kyung gave you?" The screen filled with urgent symbols. "Prince gave me secrets before death, hidden base location, names of conspirators, evidence of murder." Minho leaned forward. "What kind of hidden base?" "Ancient place," Dahl responded. "Prince found old ruins. Technology from before. Very powerful. Conspirators want to use it for war." Hana felt a chill run down her spine. Ancient alien technology was the stuff of legends. Most scientists believed the old stories were just myths. "Where is this base?" she asked. The screen showed a star map that appeared in their minds through the neural link. The location was marked clearly. It was in the outer rim of the galaxy, on a world that human databases listed as uninhabitable. "That is why they killed the prince," Minho said, understanding dawning on his face. "He wanted to study the technology peacefully. They wanted to weaponize it." Before anyone could respond, they heard the sound of engines overhead. Military aircraft were approaching fast. "I did not call them," Minho said quickly, seeing the accusation in Hana's eyes. Dahl's head lifted, his enhanced hearing picking up sounds they could not detect. Through the neural link, urgent warnings flashed on the screen. "Talon ships coming, they found me." The aircraft were getting closer, but they were not alone. Talon fighters were approaching from the opposite direction, their purple hulls gleaming in the afternoon sun. "Both sides are coming," Hana realized. "They both want Dahl." "We have to get out of here," Minho said, all thoughts of calling for backup forgotten, but Dahl could not move fast enough to escape. His injuries were still healing, and he was far too large to hide. They were trapped. Hana made a desperate decision. She pulled out an emergency beacon from her pack, one designed to call for terraforming equipment in case of emergencies. But instead of calling for help, she reprogrammed it with coordinates from Dahl's memory. "What are you doing?" Minho asked. "Something crazy," Hana replied, and activated the beacon. The signal shot up into space, carrying the coordinates of the ancient ruins. Within minutes, it would reach every communication network in this part of the galaxy. "If everyone knows where the ancient base is," she said, "then no one can use it as a secret weapon." The first human aircraft landed nearby, and soldiers began climbing toward their position. At the same time, Talon fighters screamed overhead, preparing to attack. But something else was happening. Deep beneath their feet, Korath Prime itself was beginning to respond to the signal. Ancient systems that had slept for thousands of years were slowly waking up. The ground began to shake, and Dahl's eyes went wide with surprise and something that looked like recognition. "What is happening?" Minho shouted over the growing rumble. "Dahl's." Response appeared on the screen just as the first soldiers reached them. "The old ones are waking up." The ground beneath Korath Prime shook harder with each passing second. Hana, Minho, and Dahl watched in amazement as cracks appeared in the rocky surface around them. But these were not random breaks in the stone. They formed perfect geometric patterns like circuits carved into the planet itself. "What did you do?" Minho shouted over the rumbling noise. "I sent the coordinates of the ancient base to everyone," Hana replied. "But I think I did more than that." Through the neural link, Dahl was sending urgent messages to her datapad. "Signal woke the sleepers. This world is not what it seems." Prince Kyung knew the truth. Before Hana could ask what he meant, the first human soldiers reached their hiding place. Commander Jisoo Lee led the group, her uniform marking her as Terran Defense Force. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. "Dr. Kim, step away from the alien creature," she ordered, raising her weapon. "Commander, please listen," Hana said, not moving from Dahl's side. "This is not what you think. He has information that could change everything." "What I think is that you are harboring enemy biotechnology," Commander Lee replied. "That thing is coming with us for study." At the same time, Talon fighters were landing on the other side of the battlefield. Purple-armored soldiers poured out, led by a tall female officer with cold silver eyes. Through the neural link, Dahl identified her with a mixture of fear and hatred. "General So-min," appeared on Hana's datapad. "She killed Prince Kyung. She ordered my abandonment." The Talon forces approached from one direction, while the human soldiers closed in from another. Both groups wanted Dahl, but for different reasons. The humans saw him as a weapon to study. The Talon saw him as a loose end to eliminate. "This is about to get very ugly," Minho said, watching the two military forces size each other up. But the shaking ground was getting stronger. Strange lights began to appear beneath the surface, following the geometric patterns in the rock. The lights were blue-white and pulsed like a heartbeat. General Soman reached them first, her weapon trained on Dahl. She spoke in accented English so the humans could understand her. "That war beast is Talon property," she announced. "It contains classified information that belongs to the Empire." "Actually, it contains evidence of your crimes," Hana said boldly. "Dahl has memories of Prince Kyung's assassination. He knows you murdered your own ruler." General Soman's silver eyes narrowed dangerously. "The war beast is malfunctioning. Its memory banks are corrupted. That is why it must be destroyed." Commander Lee looked between the two groups, trying to understand the situation. "What is she talking about, Dr. Kim?" "Prince Kyung was trying to make peace," Hana explained quickly. "He found ancient ruins somewhere in the galaxy, technology that could benefit everyone. But General So-min and her conspirators killed him so they could use the technology as a weapon." "Lies," General So-min hissed. "The prince was a traitor who would have surrendered our empire to human invaders." The argument was interrupted by a new sound. Deep beneath them, something enormous was powering up. The blue lights in the ground grew brighter, and the geometric patterns began to extend outward like a vast network. Dahl's head lifted suddenly, his golden eyes wide with recognition and wonder. Through the neural link, excited messages flooded. "Hana's datapad. The old ones built this place, not just ruins on distant world. This whole planet is ancient machine. Signal activated it." Hana stared at the message in shock. "Korath Prime is not a natural world." "Disguised," Dahl responded. "Hidden for thousands of years. Prince Kyung suspected truth. That is why he studied here." The revelation hit everyone at the same time. They were not standing on a mining planet. They were standing on an ancient alien fortress that had been sleeping for millennia. The ground split open in a perfect circle around their position. But instead of falling into a pit, they found themselves standing on a platform that began to rise. Ancient technology lifted them high into the air as the true nature of Korath Prime revealed itself. The rocky surface was folding back like flower petals, exposing metal structures beneath. Towers of crystalline material emerged from hidden chambers. Energy shields flickered to life, creating protective barriers around the awakening fortress. "Impossible," General So-min breathed, her weapon forgotten. Commander Lee was speaking rapidly into her communication device, calling for backup that would never be enough to handle this situation. But the ancient systems were not done. As the IND platform continued to rise, Hana felt something scanning her mind. It was gentle but thorough, reading her thoughts and emotions with impossible precision. The same scan touched Minho, then moved to the soldiers from both sides. But when it reached Dahl, something different happened. The war beast's neural ports began to glow with the same blue light that pulsed through the planet's surface. "Connection established," appeared on Hana's datapad. "Ancient systems recognize me. They know what I am." "What do you mean?" Hana asked. war beasts created using ancient genetic templates. Talon found old DNA patterns in ruins, used them to make us. We are part ancient, part new. The scanning presence touched Hana's mind again, and this time she heard a voice. It was not words exactly, but concepts that formed meaning directly in her thoughts. Why did you help the created one? The voice asked. Hana answered without speaking aloud, knowing somehow that the ancient intelligence could hear her thoughts. Because he needed help. Because it was right. Right, the voice repeated as if tasting the concept. You chose compassion over advantage. The created one chose loyalty over programming. This is unexpected. Around them, the fortress continued to transform. Weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments, but they did not target the people on the platform. Instead, they tracked the approaching aircraft from both human and Talon fleets. The old systems are taking defensive positions, Minho observed, in awe. General Soman raised her weapon again, pointing it at Hana. You have doomed us all. The ancient technology should have remained hidden. Hidden so you could use it for war? Hana replied. The ancients are judging us right now. All of us, she was right. The scanning presence was evaluating every person on the platform. Through the neural link, Dahl was translating what the ancient systems were discovering. They test for worthiness, he explained. Not strength or intelligence. They look for goodness. The scan completed, and the ancient voice spoke to all of them at once. The created one carries the genetic memory of our builders. The human female carries the compassion we valued above all else. Together, they represent what we hoped both species might become. General Soman's face twisted with rage. I will not be judged by dead aliens and their pet monsters. She fired her weapon at Dahl, but the energy beam struck a protective shield that materialized around the war beast. The ancient systems had chosen to protect him. You have failed the test, the voice announced, but others have passed. The platform began to descend toward a new opening in the fortress surface. Commander Lee and her soldiers looked around in confusion, but they were not being attacked. The ancient systems seemed to consider them neutral. What happens now? Commander, Lee asked. Through the neural link, Dahl provided the answer. Now we learn what the ancients really wanted, and whether we are wise enough to deserve their gifts. As they descended into the heart of the awakened fortress, Hana realized that everything was about to change. The choice she had made to save one abandoned creature had awakened something that would reshape the galaxy, but the test was not over. It was just beginning. The platform carried them deep into the heart of the ancient fortress. The walls around them glowed with the same blue light that pulsed through Dahl's neural ports. Hana could feel the immense intelligence of the ancient systems studying every thought and emotion of everyone present. They arrived in a vast chamber that defied understanding. The ceiling stretched so high it disappeared into darkness. Crystalline structures grew from the floor like frozen trees, each one humming with energy. At the center of it all stood a throne-like chair, made of the same blue crystal. The command, center, the ancient voice spoke in their minds. Built by our people before the great sleep, waiting for those worthy to inherit our purpose. General Soman looked around the chamber with hungry eyes. Despite failing the test, she had not given up her ambitions. This technology belongs to the strong, she declared, not to weak humans and their pet monsters. You still don't understand, Hana said sadly. This isn't about being strong. It's about being worthy. The ancient systems seemed to agree. Energy. Field surrounded General Soman and her soldiers, holding them in place but not harming them. They would be witnesses but not participants in what came next. Commander Lee and her human soldiers were also surrounded by energy fields, but these felt different, protective rather than restraining. The ancient systems were keeping them safe. While bigger events unfolded, the test continues, the voice announced. The human female who showed compassion and the created one who chose loyalty must now prove they can lead others to wisdom. Through the neural link, Dahl was receiving massive amounts of information from the fortress systems. His golden eyes glowed brighter as ancient knowledge flowed into his mind. but Hana could sense his struggle through their connection. Too much appeared on her datapad. Systems want to merge completely. Will lose myself. Hana understood the choice Dahl was facing. The ancient fortress needed a consciousness to guide it, someone who could bridge the gap between the old technology and the new galaxy. But becoming that consciousness would mean giving up his individual existence. "You don't have to do this," she said, placing her hand on his armored head. "We can find another way." "No other way," Dahl replied through the link. "But scared. What if I forget who I am?" "Then I'll remind you," Hana promised. "I'll be here to help you remember what matters." Dahl looked at her with those intelligent golden eyes, and she saw his decision forming. He was going to sacrifice himself to save others, just as she had risked herself to save him days ago. "We'll trust you," he communicated. "We'll trust our bond." The warbeast moved slowly toward the crystal throne. With each step, his connection to the fortress systems grew stronger. The blue light in his neural ports blazed brighter, and streams of energy began flowing between him and the ancient technology. When Dahl reached the throne, he turned back to look at Hana one last time. Then he placed his massive form against the crystal chair and allowed the merger to begin. The change was immediate and overwhelming. Dahl's consciousness expanded throughout the entire fortress. His awareness touched every system, every weapon, every shield generator. He became the mind that controlled it all. For a terrifying moment, Hana thought she had lost him completely. The neural link went silent, and the creature she had saved seemed to disappear into the vast intelligence of the ancient systems. But then, slowly, familiar patterns appeared on her datapad. "Still here," the message read. Still Dahl. But also, more now. Relief flooded through Hana. Somehow Dahl had managed to keep his individual personality, even while merging with the fortress consciousness. The bond they had formed was strong enough to anchor his identity. "What happens now?" she asked. The answer came not just through the datapad, but through the ancient voice that now carried traces of Dahl's warm personality. "Now we fulfill our purpose," the combined consciousness replied. The ancients built this fortress to be a sanctuary, a place where different species could meet in peace and learn from each other. Around them, the chamber began to change. New passages opened in the walls leading to different sections of the fortress. Through the neural link, Hana could see vast libraries, research centers, and living areas designed for dozens of different alien species. This was meant to be a meeting place, she realized. Yes, Dahl's enhanced consciousness confirmed. But the original builders died before they could complete their mission. They left the fortress sleeping, waiting for the right leaders to awaken it. General Soman struggled against her energy field restraints. "You cannot simply give this power to humans and their pets. The Talon Empire will never accept this." "The Empire will have to accept it," replied a new voice. Everyone turned to see figures materializing in the chamber. They were holograms, but incredibly detailed ones. Hana recognized some of them as Talon nobles she had seen in news feeds. "Prince Daiho," General Soman gasped, seeing one of the figures. "Hello, General," the holographic prince replied coldly. "We received some very interesting information broadcast across the galaxy a few hours ago. Information about Prince Kyung's murder and your conspiracy." More holograms appeared. Human politicians, alien diplomats, representatives from a dozen different species. The signal Hana had sent had not just awakened the fortress. It had alerted everyone in the galaxy to what was happening on Koreth Prime. "The evidence this war beast carries has been distributed to every major government," another Talon noble announced. "General Soman, you are under arrest for treason and murder." "And what about the fortress?" Commander Lee asked. "Who controls this technology?" That question brought all attention back to Hana. Through the neural link, she could feel Dahl's vast new awareness waiting for her answer. The ancient systems had judged her worthy, but what did that mean? "I don't want to control it," she said honestly. "That's not what this place is for." She walked to the center of the chamber and spoke to all the holograms watching her. "This fortress was built to be a sanctuary," she announced. A place where any being can come seeking peace or knowledge. It will not belong to any one species or government. And who decides who can come here? Prince Daho asked. Hana looked around the chamber, at Commander Lee and her soldiers, at the restrained General Soman, at Dr. Park, who had become an unexpected ally. Then she felt Dahl's consciousness supporting her through their bond. We will, she said simply. Dahl and I will welcome anyone who comes in peace and turns away those who come with violence in their hearts. It was a bold claim, but the ancient systems seemed to approve. The fortress weapons powered up, not as a threat but as a demonstration. No military force in the galaxy could take this place by violence. Over the following weeks, word spread across known space. The human who had saved an abandoned war beast had become the keeper of an ancient sanctuary. Ships began arriving from every corner of the galaxy. Some came seeking advanced technology. Others hoped to study the ancient knowledge stored in the fortress libraries. Many were refugees from various conflicts, looking for a safe place to rebuild their lives. Hana found herself reluctantly taking the role of leader, though she preferred to think of herself as a caretaker. She established simple rules based on the principles that had saved Dahl. Treat others with compassion, respect the right of all beings to choose their own path, and remember that everyone deserves a chance at redemption. Dahl, now expanded far beyond his original form, served as both protector and advisor. His consciousness lived throughout the fortress, but he could still communicate with Hana through their special bond. He had become something greater than either human or war beast, yet somehow remained the gentle soul she had first saved in the rubble. The fortress world became known throughout the galaxy as Haven. It was a place where former enemies worked together, where ancient wisdom was shared freely, and where the lost and abandoned could find new purpose. Standing in the crystal chamber months later, watching representatives from 50 different species debating peacefully in the main assembly hall, Hana reflected on how much had changed. A simple act of kindness toward a dying creature had awakened something that was reshaping galactic civilization. No regrets? Dahl's consciousness asked through their link. Hana smiled and touched one of the crystal formations that now served as his physical form. No regrets, she replied. We gave each other exactly what we needed. Outside the fortress, ships from across the galaxy continued to arrive. Each one brought beings seeking the same thing Dahl had found in that pile of rubble, someone who would see them as more than what others had made them to be. And in the heart of Haven, the war beast who had learned about kindness and the human who had taught it to him continued their work of building something better than either had ever imagined possible.